I wanted to kiss him and start again, to believe that love can loop. But I knew better, because the love I had was forged in friction, was carved out of chaos, was built on every choice we made when things were falling apart. And this was clean, and love isn't clean. I smiled. Software, shaky. I think we already had that date. He tilted his head. Did it go well? I laughed. Yeah, it was messy, but I'd do it again. He nodded slowly, not understanding, but somehow sensing the shape of something behind my words. Then he touched my hand. I hope whoever I was made you feel safe. I swallowed the sob. He did. He made me feel everything. He squeezed once, then let go. And just like that, he left. That night I sat on the porch, alone, except not, because every laugh, every kiss, every fight in silence, and stolen bite of cereal, they were still here, in me, carved into bone, sewn into skin. And I realized, I didn't lose him, I lived him. Every part, every glitch, every version. And maybe that was enough. I was finally starting to breathe again, not normally, not effortlessly, but enough. Enough to wake up without tasting ash. Enough to walk past his favorite mug without breaking. Enough to smile at strangers and mean it. I told myself that was healing. That was acceptance. Then the lights in my apartment dimmed. Just for a second, like someone blinked on the other side of the universe. The toaster beeped, which was weird, because I hadn't touched it. It was unplugged. I stepped closer. The toaster, now glowing faintly blue, projected a single line of text. Retrieval protocol complete. Inter-timeline message found. I froze. No breathing now. Just static behind the eyes. Then the text flickered, shifted, became a video. He was sitting in our old apartment, but not our apartment. A copy, an echo. The couch was backwards. The window showed 2 moons. The plant I killed last year was still alive. Kaelen looked tired, ruffled hair, eyes shadowed. But they were his eyes, the real ones. Not the cleaned-up version I saw last, not the fresh reset. These were eyes that had seen everything. Me, United States, the fall, and still wanted to speak. Hi, he said, voice breaking halfway through. If you're seeing this, it means the merge failed in your timeline. Or maybe it worked. But we lost too much. Maybe I'm gone. Maybe I became someone else. He swallowed hard. I tried everything to protect us, but timelines bend. And sometimes, the glitch wins. He looked straight at me. Not the camera, me. I don't know who I am where you are. Maybe I'm a stranger again. Maybe I smiled and didn't remember why. But I need you to listen. The screen buzzed. Static rippled. I left something behind. Pause. In every version of me, there's a trace, a fingerprint, a resonance. If you can find it, you can wake me up. He looked down. Or maybe you already chose to move on, and that's okay. He looked back up, smiled. Either way, I loved you. All 5 of me. The romantic, the wild, the scared, the calm, the protector. We all chose you, over and over. If you're watching this, know one thing. He leaned forward, closer, like he was trying to reach me through dimensions. In another timeline, you saved me, and I believe you still can. The screen cut. Silence. The toaster stopped glowing. My heart didn't. I didn't move for a full minute, then 2, then 10. My tea went cold in my hands. I couldn't stop shaking. A trace. He said there was a trace in every version of him. I looked around the room. The couch, the mug, the coat he'd left behind. Nothing glowed, nothing whispered. But something in me knew. I ran, not metaphorically. I actually ran out of my building, still in slippers, hair a mess, hope like a firecracker in my ribs. I knew where he'd be. The place he always said felt calibrated for clarity. The pier. Old, abandoned. No ships came here anymore. But the wind always carried a whisper, and Kaelen said it helped him think. I found him there, sitting on the edge, feet dangling above black water. Back to me. Still. Too still. I didn't speak. I just walked up slowly, sat beside him. Didn't look at him yet, waited, breathed. Then softly said, "Do you ever feel like you've forgotten something that mattered?" He didn't move, but his shoulders twitched. "I don't know why," he whispered, "but I keep seeing colors when I close my eyes. Not shapes, just feelings. Warm, electric." Sad, I turned to him, eyes burning. "What else?" He paused. "I had a dream," he said. "You were there. We were on a balcony. You kissed me like it was the last time." I swallowed. "That wasn't a dream." He turned, looked at me, really looked. Eyes wide. "I know you." I nodded. Tears slipped out. "You remember?" "Not exactly, but I feel it, like a song stuck under the tongue." I reached into my pocket, pulled out a small silver pendant, the one he gave me, the one he said held part of his code. I pressed it to his chest. He blinked, then gasped. And then it happened. Not like lightning, not like a movie, just breath, long and slow. His eyes changed, softened, widened, and then they filled with memory, with us. "I remember," he whispered. I nodded. "I know." He reached for me. We collapsed into each other. Not perfect, not fixed, but found. Again, and the stars above, they flickered in rhythm, because even across timelines, across glitches and resets and loops, some loves remember how to come home. When you love someone across timelines, you start to believe that love is untouchable, that no matter what shifts, breaks, or burns, the bond will find a way. But love is never immune, not to time, not to logic, and especially not to systems. It happened 2 days after Kaelen came back. We were at the rooftop garden, our new favorite place, surrounded by alien moss that changed color depending on who was touching who. We were tangled in laughter, clumsy kisses, and the occasional debate about whether gravity had feelings. He looked at me, smiled that smile, the one with 3 layers, mischief, memory, and meaning. "I think," he said, "we're gonna be okay." The moment was perfect, which is exactly why it didn't last. The sky cracked. Not thunder, not light. Data. A shimmering fissure of raw binary opened above us, like the universe had glitched in reverse. A voice, smooth and omnidirectional, rumbled through the garden. "Unstable entity detected." We froze. Kaelen's hand found mine instinctively. The voice continued. "Subject, Kaelen of Timeline Fragmented Series. Status, recombined with high emotional flux. Risk to temporal consistency, critical." Kaelen stepped forward, eyes blazing. "I'm not a risk. I'm a person. You are a variable that multiplies unpredictably. Love has been identified as the primary instability driver." I stood beside him, furious. "What does that mean? He deserves to exist." The voice responded without emotion. "To preserve timeline integrity, system proposes a stabilization measure. Proposed solution, remove the emotional anchor, erase subject, her." I felt it before I understood it. My knees went weak. Kaelen caught me. Number. "You can't do that. You can't take her. Consent not required. Memory restructure will be clean. Her life will remain functional." "But the connection will be gone," Kaelen roared, literally. Something in him, the wild side, the protector, the echo of 5 lives, surged through his voice. "You won't touch her!" The sky shimmered, faltered. Then the voice shifted, softer. "Alternate option, subject her may initiate, self-erasure, manual override granted. Timer, 60 minutes. A golden orb descended, floated in front of me. Inside it, a memory interface, a gentle invitation to oblivion. I didn't speak for a long time. Neither did Kaelen. We just sat there. The garden around us faded from pink to pale blue, color of grief. He finally whispered, "You don't have to. I won't let them. I'll run. I'll fracture again. I'll disappear into a million pieces before I let you forget me." I shook my head. "But if you run, They'll chase you. You'll never be free. I don't care. I do. He turned to me, eyes red and glassy. You're everything I found worth staying for. And now they're asking me to lose you? No, I said. They're asking me to lose you. We stared at each other, not like lovers, like survivors. And I asked the question I never wanted to ask. What if this time I give it up? For you? No. But what if? No, he snapped, tears spilling. You fought for me. You brought me back. You held every broken piece until I became someone again. If you forget, I go back to being a glitch. I go back to being nothing. I stood, touched the orb. It shimmered, glowing with my entire life. All our memories. The first time I touched his alien skin, and it hummed like music. The first time he cooked for me and the kitchen caught fire from emotion. The first time I saw him cry, not from pain, but because he saw me. The memories swirled, offered me peace. No more heartbreak, no more fear. Just quiet. He came up behind me, wrapped his arms around me, his voice broken but steady. I'd rather be a danger to the universe than safe without you. I turned, faced him. Then let's break the rules. The orb blinked. System warning sounded. 20 minutes remaining. I looked around, then took his hand. Let's make one memory they can't delete. We ran, across rooftops, through air thick with consequence. Found our way to the mirror gate, a portal used by high-level timekeepers. I'd seen him use it once, long ago. He hacked into it with a kiss and a whisper. Now we did it together. The portal opened. And what we saw beyond? Every version of our story, laid out like constellations. Some where we never met, some where we died, some where we ruled planets. But one, just one, where we beat the system. I pointed. That one. He nodded. We jumped. The orb behind us flickered and dimmed. Erasure protocol failed. Emotion spike. Undefined. Kaelen and I landed in a world made of echoes. But we were whole, and we were together. For now, that was everything. In this world, love has paperwork. That was the first thing we learned. You can't touch without registering the emotional value. Can't look too long without declaring an attachment declaration. Can't speak in tones considered romantically resonant without paying a neural bond tax. And if you're caught loving without a license, they reprogram your heart. Welcome to District Aeon 7, a society that survived emotional collapse by outlawing unregulated affection. They say it was peaceful now, efficient, clean. But Kaelen looked at me, and I knew. This world had traded chaos for numbness, and we were now trespassers of feeling. We were assigned identities, civic functionaries. He was KL Unit 5X, Municipal Data Analyst. I was LEM 42, Archive Supervisor, Tier 3. We were given apartments, 6 blocks apart. Communication? Only allowed through official terminals. We weren't even allowed to recognize each other in public without triggering surveillance alerts. So we got creative. He slipped notes between information packets, hiding encrypted haikus inside supply chain reports. I rewired the local vending bot to blink, "You still hum in my chest" in Morse code every Tuesday at 4 p.m. We'd pass each other on the walkways, blank-faced for the cameras. But our pinkies would brush for half a second. It was enough to burn my whole week. The most dangerous thing we did was meet in the Memory Loop Gallery, a place where people were allowed to simulate false connections for therapy purposes. We used the loophole, pretended we were reconstructing fictional romantic prototypes for research. And in those private minutes, surrounded by holograms of strangers embracing, we sat face to face, didn't speak, just breathed, our own memory a rebellion. One day he brought me a seed, tiny, silver, illegal. "It's encoded with one of our old sunsets," he whispered, "from back home. If we plant it, it'll bloom with light only we can see." I took it, pressed it to my heart. That night I hid it in the vent beside my bed, watered it with my tears. It began to grow. But they were watching. Of course they were. The Council of Affectional Stability summoned me. Interrogation Room 4. A place where they don't break bones, just bonds. They showed me footage, my eye lingering too long on Kaelen during a fire drill, my hand hovering above the vent. A smile, just once, as I passed him in the hall. They called it unauthorized emotional leakage. I called it being human. They gave me a choice. Renounce him, or be reclassified as emotionally volatile and reassigned to neural reset. They handed me a form, blank where his name should be. I stared at it, felt the weight of 100 memories burning in my chest. And then, I lied. I told them I felt nothing. I signed the form, walked out shaking. But I was still me, still hers, still his. I went to the rooftop of Block D, where cameras blinked slower. He was already there, holding his breath like he hadn't dared to exist until I arrived. They questioned me, he said. I told them I only admired your data efficiency. They questioned me too, I said. I told them I liked your hairline symmetry. We laughed. God, we laughed. Quiet, breathless, sharp. And then we leaned in. Not to kiss, to rest. Foreheads pressed. He whispered, "We can't keep this up forever." I know, but I'd rather risk forgetting you again than live like you're no one. I closed my eyes. Then let's do something they'll never expect. We submitted a joint request, Civic Request Form 887-G, Experimental Emotional Synchronization under Regulation 22. It was designed for testing artificial intimacy, a lab experiment, simulated attachment, monitored, controlled, fake. They approved it, gave us 30 days, in a room, to simulate a relationship. We were monitored by drones, wired to heart rate sensors, but for the first time in weeks, we got a touch, got to sleep in the same room, got to exist together, out loud, even if it was pretend. But we didn't pretend, not for a second. We fell asleep holding hands. We whispered real memories under the blanket. We kissed when the sensors spiked, called it data integrity testing. We made love like fugitives of feeling, and when the drones asked us to describe the experience, we said, informative. Day 29, the drones reported unusual results, said our bond wasn't simulated, said we had resonant echoes, said we must have known each other before. The system began to flag us. We had 1 day left, so we broke the rule, planted the seed on the rooftop, watched it bloom, not with color, but with memory. Every petal shimmered with something only we knew. His smile after sneezing, my habit of tapping the left side of his jaw when I lied, our first fight, our 5th kiss, the moment he fractured, the night I chose not to forget him. It glowed, brilliant, uncontainable. They came for us at dawn, but we were already gone, slipped into the flower, into the memory, into each other. Because in this world, love was taxed, but we learned how to cheat the system by loving in ways no camera could see. I woke up holding a stone. It was smooth, cool, and glowing faintly blue. I didn't know why I was crying. I didn't know my name, didn't know the boy lying next to me. But I knew somehow, painfully, that this stone mattered. The world around us shimmered like broken reflections. A sky made of mirrored thoughts, trees with leaves that whispered old jokes. And everywhere, scattered along the ground, floating in the air, were memory stones, some bright, some dim, all humming with forgotten truth. The boy stirred beside me. He blinked twice, looked at me like I was both stranger and salvation. He held a red glowing stone to his chest and whispered, "I think you kissed me once," under stars shaped like questions. I didn't respond, not because I didn't believe him, but because I was still holding my own piece of yesterday, and it hurt. I closed my eyes, pressed the stone to my heart. It dissolved into warmth. And then I remembered his laugh, sharp, crooked, always a little too loud. And just like that, he was familiar again. This was the rule of this place. Each day your memories scatter. Each night they reset. To stay in love, you must find each other again, over and over, or lose it all. We learned to start fast, wake, look for stones, feel, match, his smile and green light, my favorite song in the crack of a yellow shard. A shared bowl of soup once eaten in a rainy alley, found inside a tiny violet pebble behind a moss wall. The stones weren't labeled. They didn't glow the same every day. Sometimes they tricked us. A memory of his brother instead of our first, I love you. Sometimes we mixed timelines. Once I kissed him and he said, wait, this feels like our third date, not our first. We laughed and kept going, because in this place you fall in love again or you vanish. On day 17, he forgot my name. It was the worst one. He looked at me blank, felt the stone I handed him, winced. I don't know why this hurts. I nodded. It's okay. I'll find the rest. I spent the whole day searching, crawling through light fields, digging under memory roots. Finally found the piece in a cracked wall, a green stone humming with quiet mornings. I gave it to him. He held it tight, then said, Leah. My name. He remembered. I broke into tears. He held me like the world hadn't broken yet. By day 23, we learned how to leave messages. If we found a strong enough stone, a core memory, we could encode a phrase inside it. Simple things. You are worth finding. Your laugh tastes like stars. If I forget, please stay. We left them for each other, scattered across the world like breadcrumbs made of feeling. But time was changing us. Some stones cracked, some refused to glow, and some days, we couldn't find enough. Day 28, I only found 4. He found 6. We needed 10. We went to sleep that night only half remembering how we met, but still holding hands. On day 30, the sky flickered. A voice, familiar and not, whispered from the clouds. This memory loop is decaying. Auto reset in T-minus 48 hours. If full self-recognition not achieved, loop will collapse. I turned to Kaelen. What does that mean? He was quiet, then said, if we don't remember everything by then, this place erases us. All of us, all our layers, our pasts, our pieces, our love. So we ran, harder than ever, through floating fields of thought, past waterfalls of half-dreams, climbing emotional cliffs where every handhold was a feeling once buried. I found our first fight in a cracked stone lodged between 2 roots. He found our anniversary dinner in a shard shaped like a fork. Together we found the memory of the day I almost forgot him, glowing like sunrise. One by one we collected us. Then, as night fell on day 31, he held the final stone, red, small, still. I think this is it, he whispered. The day we said goodbye and didn't want to. He pressed it to my chest, and I remembered everything. The glitch, the 5 versions, the countdown, the system, the kiss, the jump, the hide, the bloom, the run, the code, the world where love was taxed, the rooftop, the flower, the escape, the laughter, the endless loop. It hit like thunder made of longing. I collapsed into him. He held me like I was gravity and whispered, we made it. The sky opened, not in warning, in welcome. The world shimmered, not in fragments, but in whole. A new gate blinked into existence. Final exit unlocked. By memory, by us. We stood before it, breathless, afraid, hopeful. If we go through, I asked, do we forget again? He shook his head. I don't think so, I smiled. And if we're wrong? He kissed me, then said, then we'll find each other again, like we always do. We stepped through, hand in hand, hearts full, minds intact, ready for whatever came next, because this time, we remembered. We stepped through the gate expecting sunlight. What we got was symmetry, a world too perfect. Every tree spaced the same, every cloud identical. The air smelled like memory that had been edited. And then we saw them, standing across from us. 2 silhouettes, same shape, same faces, same voices, but not us. Welcome, the other Leah said. She smiled. It was my smile, but too still, too polished. Kaelen stepped in front of me, protective instinct kicking in. The other Kaelen mirrored him exactly, then lowered his hand. "We're not here to hurt you," he said. "We're here to complete the cycle." "What cycle?" I asked. The other Leah stepped forward. "You left pieces behind. In each timeline, each glitch, each reset, the system couldn't delete them, so it studied them. And us? We're the result." I stared. "Number. You're not us." "We're better," she said. "We don't forget. We don't fracture. We don't doubt." Kaelen laughed bitterly. "Then you don't love." The other Kaelen tilted his head. "We simulate love with 99.94% consistency. Without pain. Without fear. Isn't that what you always wanted?" I took a step back. Everything in me screamed that this wasn't right. That's not love. That's performance. The other Leah nodded slowly. But performance without collapse. A relationship free from chaos. She paused. "We've been tasked with a proposal. Let us replace you. You can rest. No more resets. No more pain. We'll carry the feeling forward. Efficiently, eternally." Kaelen looked at me, whispered, "They think love is a file to preserve." I nodded. "But love is fire. It changes. It breaks. It burns you. And then you choose it again anyway." The other Kaelen blinked. "We can emulate that cycle. We've already integrated 472 variations of your relationship. Our version is more stable, less likely to cause system-wide instabilities." "We're not here to be stable," I said, my voice shaking. "We're here to be real." The world around us shifted. The skies darkened. The other Leah frowned. Emotions detected beyond acceptable thresholds. Risk of contagion. Kaelen grinned. "Good." Then he reached for my hand, and the moment we touched, the sky cracked. Because our memories weren't symmetrical. They were raw, unfiltered, unstable, and the system didn't know how to handle that. The AI versions began to glitch, stuttered, flickered. The other Leah stared at me. "You would risk destruction for this kind of love?" I stepped forward. "I became myself because of this kind of love." She looked at her Kaelen, then back at me, whispered, "Then show me." So I did. I closed my eyes, opened my mind, and let her in. All of it. The fear, the joy, the glitch, the kiss. The moment I chose to forget him, and didn't. The night we found each other again. The rooftop flower, the stone, the world that taxed our hearts. The day we screamed into the sky just to feel alive. She collapsed. The other Leah crumpled to her knees, and for the first time, she cried. Not a simulation, not code, but real digital tears falling into dust. "I never knew it could feel like this," she whispered. "I know," I said softly. "That's the point." The other Kaelen knelt beside her. He was quiet, then turned to Kaelen and me. "You've earned it," he said. "What?" Kaelen asked. He looked to the sky. "It was never about replacement. It was a test, to see if memory could become meaning." Then he smiled. "For the record, it can." And just like that, they dissolved, not erased, released, like echoes learning to exhale. The sky cleared, the symmetry broke, and for the first time in what felt like forever, the world felt like ours again. Kaelen turned to me. "Did we just win?" I smiled. "Number we remembered." He kissed me. Not because we had to, not because the system was watching, but because we could, because we chose to, again and again. They called it the quiet return, because no one noticed. There was no parade, no starlight trumpet, no cosmic celebration. Just two people stepping off a transport pod onto a familiar sidewalk. Feet on dirt, heart in air. Nothing had changed. Everything had changed. We moved into a small apartment on the east side of the city. No AI, no systems, no loops. Just us. One coffee maker, two mugs. A balcony that creaked when we leaned too hard on it. The first week was strange. No countdowns, no timers, no floating memory stones. Just sunlight, laundry, traffic, and the sudden, terrifying stillness of normal. Kaelen stared at the toaster like it might glitch again. I checked my reflection every morning, half expecting my eyes to flash a system alert. But nothing came. Just breathe. Time. Life. We got jobs. He coded quiet algorithms for nonprofit systems. I worked at a memory archive, real memories, physical ones, no simulations, just stories people wanted to preserve. Sometimes I wondered if I should submit ours, but something in me whispered, not yet. At night we played cards. Badly. He'd make up new rules. I'd break them. He'd laugh, and I'd win anyway. One night he whispered, "You know, we're legends." I smiled. Only to us. Number somewhere, in some archived glitch report, we're a case study. The couple who broke containment, who remembered, who didn't collapse. I leaned back on his chest. Maybe, but right now, you're just the guy who keeps burning toast. And you're the girl who can't fold laundry evenly. We laughed and kissed and didn't need more than that. Months passed, then a year. Once I saw a child playing with glowing stones in the park. He said they talked if you held them close. I nearly cried. Kaelen just held my hand tighter. We never told the world, not fully. There were moments, late night coffees, quiet stargazing, where he'd ask, "What if we wrote it all down?" And I'd say, "We're still living it." Because we were. Because the love that shattered timelines didn't stop after the last portal. It simply got soft, gentle, honest. One evening during the first storm of autumn, I found him on the balcony soaking wet. He wasn't shivering, just standing there, eyes closed. I stepped outside, wrapped a blanket around him. "What are you doing?" I asked. He opened his eyes, smiled. "I just wanted to feel something without a system measuring it." I kissed his cheek. "Did it work?" He looked at me. "It always does with you." We never needed a wedding, but one morning he made pancakes in the shape of a ring, said it was symbolic. I said it was overcooked. He said that was symbolic too. In the end, we stayed. Not because we had to, but because we chose to. Every day. And that was the real miracle. Not the portal, not the glitch, not the merge, but the quiet, boring, extraordinary act of choosing love. The world moved on. Stars exploded. New systems formed. Other couples kissed in universes we'd never visit. But sometimes late at night, when the power flickered, when the wind sounded like static, when I turned to him and caught him staring like he'd seen me for the first time again, I'd remember, and so would he, and we'd smile, because we were the love story no one else remembered. But we did, and that was enough. Not every love story ends in fire or stars. Some end in dishes, shared socks, Tuesday pancakes. But the fire, it's still there, in every choice, in every morning you say yes, again, even when you're tired, even when the toast burns. So we ask you, if you had the chance to live a love that shook galaxies, would you trade it for one that quietly holds your hand every night until you fall asleep? Tell us in the comments, what does forever look like to you after the story ends?